Hello, everyone. Christopher Hall and Freddie Hamilton from Oxford Investment Consultants here with our friends Neil Poxon and Tim Williams from Oxford Flow. Following the webinar that we held a few weeks ago, we're back today to ask a few follow-on questions and to receive some clarifications from Neil and Tim. So with that in mind, thank you very much for joining with us, Neil and Tim, today. And Freddie, first question over to you.
Hi, Neil. This is one for you. Perhaps could you remind us just quickly about the problem that Oxford Flow has identified and the solution that you have developed to solve this problem?
So Oxford Flow has developed the most advanced yet simplest and most reliable flow control valves available for a wide range of sectors. And it's interesting just to note how applicable these valves are across the market. So everything from utility, gas and water through to industrial processes, power, construction, right up to our high value market, which is oil and gas. And all in all, this market is estimated to be about 70 billion. And for those that are not too familiar with such flow control valves, they are the elements of the system that protect from overpressure. So for example, they protect your household water and gas systems from overpressurizing and damaging your equipment. And they also ensure that when you turn your gas or water on at home, you will see the same pressure out of those systems, irrespective of how many other people are turning their water and gas systems on in your neighborhood or in the same building. And when you translate that up to industrial processes, then you can imagine how mission critical these elements are to protect those systems from a safety perspective, but also these valves ensure that such systems can be operated most efficiently.
Tim, question for you. What would you describe as the key milestones the company has achieved so far?
So I'd say the first one on my shift was the successful completion of the capital raise at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, that allowed us to then take the technology that we had and embed the voice of the customer into those products so that they were packaged to meet the requirements of the customer, the end user. And as part of that, we now have a wide footprint of deployed valves across the whole of the world, really, the Middle East, Latin America, North America, Europe, and the UK. On the back of that investment, we've also added a BT team. And so the company is now very much commercial. We have a significant uptick in our sales and commercial activities, certainly over the last 5-6 months as we went over to Christmas. We have a significant order intake that was growing quite nicely before COVID hit. And we seem to be very successful at dealing with and engaging with some of the large industrial players, both in terms of oil and gas operators, water and gas utility companies, with Georg Fischer, of course, being the ultimate engagement there, where we brought them on board as a strategic investor during the current round.
Neil, question for you. Could you please describe the new corporate structure that you've developed and the benefits of bringing into the structure Georg Fischer as a strategic investor?
Yeah, sure. So underneath the holding company, Oxford Flow, we have created 3 subsidiaries, one purely for housing the intellectual property, another subsidiary for our Americas operations, and a third subsidiary to take care of all of our non-oil and gas activities. So our oil and gas activities going forward will be managed through the holding company, Oxford Flow, and everything else through the subsidiary OFUI. And it is this subsidiary that Georg Fischer has invested into. And yes, it's very exciting times for us. That is the subsidiary that allows us to maximize the value contribution of the engagement with Georg Fischer, which is not just licenses for the sale of our technology, but also for them to manufacture our polymer valve and to embark upon co-development projects with Oxford Flow.
So this is another one for you, Neil. Could you perhaps tell us a little bit more about your smart technology platform, please, and about its advantages?
Yeah, so the smart technology platform encompasses A few things really. First of all, the intelligence package that we have developed that can be incorporated as an add-on, as a modular system, an add-on to our valves. And this really enables the customer or the operator to autonomously control our valve, but also it allows the customer to acquire data and visualize it in a way that can be incorporated into their SCADA system or via our cloud platform. The other aspects of the intelligent portfolio include things like our ability to generate power remotely from a gas stream and to generate power remotely from a flowing water stream.
Thanks, Neil. In addition to the smart tech, how do you feel Oxford Flow's products otherwise stand out from the competition?
Yeah, so the key thing there, Christopher, is the core innovation principle of using a single moving part within the valve itself, as opposed to a very complex system, mechanical system using many moving parts with conventional technology. Our core principles are around providing advanced, more accurate and precise performance, but with simplicity and reliability. And that is what we have done.
Tim, this is one for you. So we've mentioned Georg Fischer and bringing them on board. And this has obviously required a new corporate structure to be developed. Could you perhaps summarize this new corporate structure and how this is fed into the funding round? And then on the back of this, what the value proposition for investors coming into this funding round now is?
Yep, certainly, Freddie. So the new structure includes effectively new subsidiaries into the group, one of which focuses purely on the non-oil and gas activity. And the main benefit of doing this is that it allows us to ring fence new funding coming into each of those subsidiary entities to support specifically the activities of each entity. The modular nature of the structure also allows for a lot more options when it comes to exit strategy, in that it allows for partial exits. And we think it probably enhances the valuation of various parts of the structure now that wouldn't otherwise be possible with a single entity structure. We think it will probably accelerate the timeline as well associated with any kind of exit of parts of the structure. The actual round itself has gone very well. We have our strategic industrial investor on board, and the board have agreed to extend the cap on the round of investment into Oxford Flow Limited. And what you'll see in terms of the valuation of the various subsidiaries is that the undiluted pre-money valuation of the Oxford Flow entity, for example, exceeds the value of its share of the subsidiary, the non-oil and gas subsidiary, by a relatively small increment. And that just highlights the relatively small value that's been attributed to that oil and gas business, for example.
So one could say that Oxford Flow, through this initiative, has really achieved a number of things. Number one, brought in an excellent, a world-class strategic investor. Number two, achieved a very compelling valuation benchmark. And number three, divided the business into a structure that is the most efficient from a business operation perspective and from a value enhancement perspective. So thank you very much for that. Question for both of you, or divided into two parts, really. Tim, if you could just comment on the cash runway achieved with the recent fundraising. And Neil, if you could kindly comment on the milestones that the company seeks to achieve with the available cash during that runway.
Yes, so currently we really have two runways, Christopher, one for the oil and gas business at Oxford Flow and one for the non-oil and gas subsidiary within OFUI. The runway for both of those effectively runs through to the first half of the first portion of the second half of 2021, so August, September 2021, for example, which happens to be the point at which the second investment from Georg Fischer is expected to arrive into our non-oil and gas subsidiary. That's subject to certain milestones being achieved at that point, but that second investment would then see the non-oil and gas subsidiary be able to be self-sufficient through to the next phase of its development. So what we would be seeking to do is to bring more funding into the Oxford Flow oil and gas entity in order to extend its runway further beyond the end of 2021, for example.
And Neil, a few words on the upcoming milestones.
At the highest level, the milestones are associated with developing value from the non-oil and gas side of our business, which is the OFUI subsidiary, which Georg Fischer has invested into. So obviously we've had a lot of success and traction in the water utility sector, and we want to build a power infrastructure and capability and see that same and enhanced traction in other sectors like gas distribution, construction, industrial process, etc. And then the second part is to develop our thrust into oil and gas. And that means getting the field trials completed and the commercial launch of our oil and gas products, and developing then traction which will hopefully result in us finding an oil and gas strategic partner who will invest in that side of our business in the same way that Georg Fischer have in the non-oil and gas side.
Tim, another one for you. Could you perhaps tell us a little bit about how COVID-19 is impacting Oxford Flow and the processes you're putting in place to mitigate this?
Yes, indeed. So COVID-19 has had an impact. It's an air pocket that we've identified. Some uncertainty still remains as to the duration of that air pocket, but we have a range of scenarios that we've planned for going forward that recognize various different durations associated with the current impact that we're seeing. And each of those scenarios seeks to protect the cash of the business, certainly through to the end of 2020 and beyond, and also to protect our EBITDA position. And under each of those scenarios, we're also focused on, for example, adding the planned expansion of the business, of scaling up the business where we can within each of those scenarios to the extent that they allow. So we've already, for example, added new R&D facilities. We've taken on a new production facility within Oxford that allows us to position the business quite nicely for when the upturn does come, and still within that backdrop of protecting our position as we go into 2021.
Neil, another question for you. What's your long-term vision for the company?
Well, of course, we're all very, very excited about that long-term vision and opportunity. In the meantime, we're very focused on grow, and provide as much value creation across the business as we can. In terms of the non-oil and gas subsidiary, OFUI, then the investment by Georg Fischer will hugely accelerate that. And we hope that we'll reach a point sooner rather than later where it makes more sense for Georg Fischer to acquire that side of the business versus continue to pay royalties. With regard to oil and gas and Oxford Flow as a holding company, we are trying to plan very carefully to duplicate that scenario and find at least one oil and gas partner, investor partner, and grow the value of that side of the business too. And in this way, we believe that we'll be able to maximize the opportunity for our shareholders and anybody who invests in the future, and keep all options open for that final exit.
Well, thank you very much, Neil and Tim, from Freddie and myself and all of us indeed at Oxford Investment Consultants. It's really excellent working with you on the investment in your company, and we look forward to a long and very successful working relationship together. So thanks again and have a great day.